In the shadowed dawn of January 3rd, 2026, the chains of justice clanged shut on Nicolás Maduro, the Venezuelan despot captured by U.S. Delta Force amid precision strikes that shattered his regime's grip. Once the untouchable head of the Cartel of the Suns, with a $15 million bounty on his crown, he now sits in American custody, his wife Celia Flores beside him, en route to prosecution in New York. This fallen kingpin, who weaponized Smartmatic's rigged code to poison elections from Caracas to American battlegrounds, will have a chance to sing a desperate aria over the global theft of votes, exposing the trillions in narco wealth that fueled hybrid invasions of borders and ballots alike. As his empire crumbles, remaining cartel members will seek to fill the void. But even his replacement plunderers now face the real knowledge that the United States is once again powerful enough to drag a wicked man from his den, no matter where that den is hidden. Maduro tried to play tough guy.
Venga por mí! Aquí no esperan Miraflores! No se tarden en llegar, cobarde!
And Trump called his bluff.
He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States. Thank you, everybody.
Now I ask, can we, the people, help put the final nail in the cartel's coffin? The Bible tells us there's nothing new under the sun. And when a nation's shepherds stray into wickedness, the land lies open to plunder. The ancient scrolls bear witness. Kings like Ahab married Jezebel, a Phoenician princess who brought Baal worship, a Canaanite fertility god involving child sacrifice and temple prostitution. Ahab allowed Baal temples to be built, persecuted prophets of God. King Ahaz sacrificed sons to Moloch, shuttered the temple, and paid tribute to Assyria, whose hands rifled Judah's treasures. King Manasseh was the longest reigning and most wicked king of Judah. He rebuilt pagan altars, practiced witchcraft, astrology, and child sacrifice, and tradition says he had the prophet Isaiah sawn in half. His sins were so severe that the prophets declared Judah's destruction inevitable. In such hours, when government is given over to evil, infiltrated by alien gods and corrupt pacts, the Lord raises prophets from the margins. Elijah thundering fire on Carmel, Ezekiel naming the faithless shepherds who feed only themselves. These truth-tellers confronted the thrones of their day, called the people back, and became vessels of redemption when rulers failed the covenant. So it stands today. Shadows veil the Republic's halls. We, the taxpayer, have been thoroughly betrayed by our parasitic representative shepherds. Oh, how they feed themselves. Doge clawed deep, unearthing alarming rot. Elon Musk stated tens of millions of dead marked alive in Social Security databases, enabling fraud across programs. Billions bled yearly in phantom benefits, highlighting how such loopholes attract illegal immigrants through entitlement scams. Millions of non-citizens issued Social Security numbers, infiltrating voter rolls to enable fraud, with democratic strategies to retain power through unchecked immigration. Agencies sworn to guard the vote and borders faltered, captured by globalist currents. CISA, once weaponized in the soft coup against Trump, still bears corruption scars. Vestiges linger through Atlantic Council ties, consensus forged to censor Americans, shielding the deep state over the people. Even with Maduro's capture, the remnant of the Venezuelan cartel can still weave Smartmatic code into Liberty Vote, Dominion, Heart, ES&S veins, flipping tallies like ancient looters sacking temples. Physical invasion surges, Tren de Aragua coiling north, though missiles have found their mark. All while digital piracy drains the will of the people. Minnesota's phantom Somali daycares, with millions siphoned from you and I, stand empty, echoing the foreign despoilers that bled the Old Testament flock. federal funds frozen only after viral cries from private watchmen. Truth tellers rise now, citizens like Nick Shirley, a door-knocking shepherd exposing billions in fraud. No children to be found, just Somali rats building nests. Digital prostitution of U.S. citizen funds and Minnesota's continued reign as a beacon for late-term abortion reveals that the spirit of Ahab and Jezebel is alive and well. So what happens when a government so overrun by corruption is unable to stave off Somali pirates that sail not on the open seas, but government programs? What happens when a Congress that should be assisting the president in repelling a cartel invasion is largely bankrolled or selected by the cartel's election devices? You stop placing your hope in the state and in a weapon that uses the private citizenry to solve the government's failures. And that's the topic for today. We the People's Weapon. Letters of Marque against the cartel rig. Letters of Marque emerge as the people's tool, a constitutional blade for we the people when government proves unworthy. Legal documents issued by governments to private ships or individuals, authorizing them to attack enemy vessels and seize cargo or prizes as acts of war, without being labeled pirates. The problem we face right out the gate is that the tool is constitutionally delegated to a Congress that is on the act blue and win red money laundering take. I'll provide a brief history lesson, but understand this tool won't be approved unless it is buried and overlooked by a Congress that's all too comfortable with passing legislation it doesn't read.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
Letters of Marque were forged in Old Fury. Monarchs issued warrants, or early letters, allowing victims of foreign theft to seize equivalent property in reprisal during peacetime, while Marque applied to wartime actions. Over time, the distinctions blurred, leading to widespread use. In the Renaissance, these became tools for naval warfare. English privateer Sir Francis Drake raided Spanish treasure fleets under Queen Elizabeth I's letters, gutting armadas and towing prizes back for the crown. Similarly, France targeted Britain, turning fishermen into raiders on ocean waves. It was a thrifty option because private investors funded ships, crews risked storms, and rulers took only a small cut, for example, 10 to 20% in Britain. This system allowed weak navies to punch above their weight economically. America adopted the practice. In 1775, amid the Revolutionary War, while redcoats occupied American sod, Massachusetts issued the first colonial letters. Captain Jeremiah O'Brien captured a British lumber ship off Machias, Maine, the war's first naval victory. By 1776, the Continental Congress issued blank forms, commissioning 2,000 privateers who captured 1,800 British vessels, outpacing the small Continental Navy, bankrupting merchants, and forcing British convoys to spread thin. George Washington and Benjamin Franklin praised them as essential. Under the Articles of Confederation, peacetime issuance required 9 states' approval, while wartime allowed states to act, but with risks of uncontrolled conflicts. Framers forged it firm. Article 1, Section 8, Congress launches war, confers letters, dictates grabs on earth and tide. Section 10 barred states. No maverick flares torching global pyres. Privateers posted bonds to ensure lawful conduct. Presidents distributed them on cue. In the Quasi-War, John Adams armed merchants against French prowlers or privateers, capturing 80 vessels without ground troops. Thomas Jefferson used them in the Barbary Wars against Tripoli pirates, seizing ships and freeing captives. James Madison, in the War of 1812, commissioned 1,600 privateers, capturing 2,000 British prizes, driving insurance rates up 30% and crippling trade from Nova Scotia to English ports. Abraham Lincoln considered them in the Civil War, but opted for a blockade to avoid recognizing the Confederacy as a sovereign enemy. The cut ran true. Privateers weren't pirates because letters protected them in admiralty courts, where judges fairly valued captures. Incentives included bounties for prisoners and cargo shares, growing military power without draining treasuries. Decline came with 19th century tech. Steam engines and ironclad ships favored professional navies. The Paris Declaration abolished privateering among signatories like Britain, France, and Russia. The U.S. refused due to its small navy. Last issued in the 1860s, archived thereafter, prize money ended in 1899. Hague Conventions condemned mercenaries. The power remains constitutional, but dormant. Phantoms nudge it conscious now. In 2012, Somali piracy saw 297 global attacks, costing billions in ransoms and disruptions. Proposals called for arming merchants to seize pirate boats. This inspired cyber tiers, private cyber firms countering hacks under a 2012 framework. DHS oversight, probable cause for tracking, evidence for attacks. In 2025, Senator Mike Lee introduced the Cartel Marque and Reprisal Act in December, authorizing letters against cartel aggression endorsed by Trump for sea operations. Representative Tim Burchett's House Bill, H.R. 1238, targeted drug vessels and aircraft. Critics warned of piracy revival and escalation. By late 2025, it simmered in committees as a tool for hybrid warfare. Make no mistake, cartels grow as a disease. The Cartel of the Suns fuses military officers with drug lords, trafficking 400 tons of drugs yearly. Cocaine, fentanyl, meth. Revenues, 5 to 8 billion annually, trillions accumulated through mining, oil siphoning, and crypto. Illicit activities were 15% of Venezuela's GDP in 2022, half its exports. Until yesterday, Nicolás Maduro led it. Now he's under lock and key. Affiliated Tren de Aragua, prison-born, spreads to the U.S., tainting soil. DHS deported members in October 2025, indictments for ATM scams. Denver raids netted dozens. Sanctions hit leader Nino Guerrero in July. Wealth hides in offshore havens, Miami real estate, jets. At least a dozen leaders, Maduro, Diosdado Caballo, have personal fortunes exceeding the CIA's 15 to 20 billion budget, with 2.7 trillion laundered globally, funding hacks and drug influxes. Your right to vote is being trapped and twisted by hidden forces, as exposed in stolen elections by author Ralph Pizzullo and Gary Bernstein, a 23-year CIA veteran who ran covert operations. They spent years and millions of dollars investigating with whistleblowers. The Cartel of the Suns and Maduro's regime pioneered undetectable fraud via Smartmatic software in the 2004 Venezuelan referendum, rigging the count to keep Chavez in power with Cuban backing, remote alterations, erased audits, fake ballots inserted. This narco-funded tech, seeded with cartel billions from cocaine empires, spread to 71 countries, including U.S. 2020 elections through Dominion links, with cartel trillions laundering bribes and hacks to flip votes in key states via China-made machines and Serbian servers. Cartels subsidize the canker. They hide the money through fake charities and foundations and buy companies that look legitimate. The fentanyl they deliver is so deadly the U.S. government already calls it a weapon of mass destruction. The cartels are using it as a weapon against America. This is no longer just crime, it's war. Legal doors are now wide open. Foreign interference in U.S. elections is a serious federal crime, penalty up to 20 years in prison. Because cartels and foreign governments are doing it together, Congress can legally declare it an act of war and issue letters of marque to let private citizens and companies fight back. Now let's wargame the path for a cyber enterprise to halt this piracy legally. Step 1. Legally deploy private companies against cartels. Congress would pass a customized law based on Senator Mike Lee's 2025 Cartel Marque and Reprisal Authorization Act, which targets drug cartels on the high seas, but expand to include cyber threats. By labeling cartel election interference as an act of war, it activates constitutional powers for letters of marque. The president then issues the letter to a screened company such as XAI, Elon Musk's AI company, or some other worthy company that sees the problem clearly. The firm posts a $10 million bond to follow rules preventing abuse. It's a way to outsource cyber defense without full military involvement. Step 2. The company uses the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2026, Section 6805, which requires penetration testing, simulated cyber attacks to find weaknesses for U.S. voting machines. A firm that actually knows what the hell they're doing, not bought and paid for like Prof or SLI compliance, gets accredited as a lab by the Election Assistance Commission. They legally test domestic systems for flaws linked to foreign software. Think Venezuelan Smartmatic code. This defensive base, or starting point, then expands internationally under the Marque letter, providing protection from the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, a U.S. law banning unauthorized hacking. It allows ethical hacks or controlled intrusions on cartel servers in Caracas, Venezuela, or Serbian proxies. The context here is clear. This bridges domestic election security laws with Marque's offensive authority, turning defense into reprisal without violating U.S. cyber laws. The vetted company uses the Cybersecurity Act to do things, frankly, our government can't do. With never-ending bureaucracy, the government doesn't innovate like the private sector. It simply steals. I say turn the government's greed against itself. More on that in a second. Step 3. The firm follows online paths, tracking IP addresses, jumping from Belgrade servers to Venezuelan hubs. They identify odd patterns like sudden vote surges. AI analyzes records to detect fake votes paid for with cartel cryptocurrency. Now hear me out. We only use these cyber firms, their AI, to catch the bad guys. As soon as we catch them, crush them, we destroy all the machines, never look back. Frankly, it's too much power for any company to hold. And I don't want a false security blanket where we rely on cyber firms. Let's just use the technology long enough to get rid of it. Paper-based elections going forward, no machines. Step 4. Work with the Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, a U.S. Treasury agency for sanctions, to freeze bank accounts and seize laundered funds.
We have our intelligence community looking into this as well, and even the Secretary of Treasury is involved with these matters since they are financial in nature. We will continue to get to the bottom of who is funding these organizations.
The targets, Swiss banks and Cayman Islands shell companies hiding trillions from Venezuelan oil, 58% of government revenue, illegal gold mining, and drug trafficking. Approximately $8 billion in annual revenue for Cartel of the Sun's share. The Office of Foreign Assets has already sanctioned Maduro. This step cuts off funding for rigging and drugs, turning the Letters of Marque into economic warfare. The government can help by making Maduro sing in a plea to save his life. Admiralty courts adjudicate, yachts, planes, mansions worth hundreds of billions forfeited, bounty split, firm takes 50%. Here the incentive burns bright. As in old wars where privateers kept 90 to 100% in the Revolution, depending on Navy aid, no seas navigated, but cyber seas charted, with a firm potentially claiming shares of trillions from those dozen cartel overlords whose fortunes eclipse CIA budgets. This is the key. Make the incentive big enough for a private firm to take a cyber wrecking ball to the cartel, but leave enough for the greedy bureaucrat to keep blessing the firm's efforts. If the government possessed any virtue, I'd recommend cutting a sizable check to the American people from the spoils. The risks? Escalation. Maduro's replacement retaliates. If the cartels strike back, the designated firms counter with DDoS blocks or data wipes, all sanctioned. Strategically, seizing assets from those dozen cartel titans would deter Smartmatic code deployment by crippling funding streams. while choking drug invasions at the border, turning private hunters into a wall against hybrid assault. The Letters of Marque adapt as needed. Doge growled savage under Elon. January 2025, fiat birthed it. Musk at the helm, cut waste, mandates, and corruption. Musk claimed $150 billion in savings in April over the shrill cries of the fact-checkers. The challenges? His advisory role lacked power without Congress. Musk resigned May 28, 2025. Efforts slowed. Spending actually rose from $6.29 trillion to $6.66 trillion in fiscal year 2025. Fraud hunts stalled. Doge aimed at $2 trillion in cuts, but achieved far less. Musk left amid scrutiny. All of these are challenges for sure. But the biggest challenge would be the cartel bot Congress itself. Citizen efforts filled the gaps. Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old YouTuber, released a December video expose on Minnesota's fraud. Approximately $9 billion stolen from $18 billion worth of federal programs since 2018. The video went viral with an excess of 100 million views, prompting an FBI surge in Minneapolis. People succeeded where government failed. Think Dunkirk's historical citizen heroism, where civilians rescued 338,000 troops when the military failed. Or in Lexington, 1775, when Minutemen fought the British without an army. Or New Orleans in 1815, where volunteers defeated the British when federal support lagged. Letters of Marque called forth bold shepherds, saving the Republic from physical and digital attacks. I end with this. The biggest pirates of them all occupy the nation's capitals. The U.S. politician is slime incarnate. They are inside traders, money launderers, maggots, or worse. When political shepherds fail and wickedness reigns, God raises unlikely voices. The Letter of Marque stands ready. We the People's Commission, bypassing infiltrated gates. I pray the fog lifts, machines fall silent, the hunt awakens, and our land endures. But before we pray anew, let's give praise for a prayer just answered. Nicolás Maduro, a king in the election rig, is no more. Praise God. What do you think? Leave your comments below. And consider subscribing, sharing, liking, and all that jazz wherever this video reaches you. We pursue 1,000 small monthly sponsors on Substack, willing to forego a couple cups of fancy coffee each month, so I can refrain from pilfering you with ads and promo codes. I'll be in DC this week to honor the J6ers who lost their lives standing up to the pirates that plundered our votes, and the next video will likely be in tribute to them. Until then, God bless, and good night.